We're joined by Marcus, the Maniac McGhee, UFC bantamweight. He's fighting at UFC 309 against Jonathan Martinez. Marcus, thank you so much for joining me. How are you, man?
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. I'm doing great, man. How about yourself?
Doing great. Happy to have you back. This is a big fight for you. You know, Jonathan Martinez, he's 13th ranked, I believe, at bantamweight. This is your first ranked fight. You're 3-0 in the UFC, 3 finishes. It's been a pretty dream run for you so far. Just sort of give people an idea of how you're feeling about this fight, just your overall sense of things going into it.
Yeah, I'm pretty grateful for the fight. Obviously, Jonathan Martinez is super seasoned. He's been around for a long time, formidable to say the least. So I'm excited for the challenge, and I was surprised when I got the call to take him on. A lot of people had said I should get a top 15 spot, but I wasn't really rushing it. So I'm thankful for the opportunity for sure.
Yeah, he in one of his last fights, he fought you're fighting a guy that just fought a legend in Jose Aldo. So I'm just curious, did you study the things that Aldo did well against Martinez and sort of your build up during this fight camp? Have you been looking into that fight at all?
Yeah, I looked into that fight and a bunch of other fights. One thing about Jonathan, again, he's been around for a long time. He's 10-4 in the UFC, so 14 fights. So I definitely looked into a lot of his previous fights just to see different things that he presents and different things that will already be good for me. And then just to look at things to be watching out for as well. He's extremely dangerous, so just looking at all my homework.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, would you say you would agree this is probably the biggest fight of your career so far, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't deny it. He definitely is.
Yeah.
It's top 15 in the UFC. I don't think it gets too much bigger unless I get higher than that. So,
Yeah. So what do you think, like a win? What do you think it does for you if you get a win here on November 16th?
I think it's just a coming out party. I think it would be a long time coming. I've been around for a long time, but I've been in the shadows. So I definitely think a win over Jonathan would definitely let people know I'm here and that I'm not joking around, that this is what I do, and I give my all on this, and that I'm going to be tough for anybody in the division.
We'll be back to the video in just a second, guys. But first, UFC 308 is going down this weekend. Massive title fight between Ilia Topuria and Max Blessed Holloway. And Inside Fighting has partnered up with DraftKings to bring you guys another amazing offer where right now, if you're a new DraftKings customer, go download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, bet $5, and you'll receive $200 of bonus bets instantly just by using our promo code Inside Fighting at sign up. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, it ain't no problem. DraftKings has you covered. Just go play DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports. Get in on the action there. Have some fun. It's my favorite thing to do with DraftKings. And again, new DraftKings customers who bet $5 get $200 of bonus bets instantly just by using our promo code Inside Fighting. Yeah. What is it that you think, what sort of like a challenge do you think that you pose as a fighter for a guy like Jonathan Martinez? Like, what is it that you think that you do well? What is it that you think he does well? Just sort of give me your diagnosis of the fight.
Yeah, I think I do a lot of things well, and he does a lot of things well as well. I think we're both really great strikers, and look to keep the fight standing up. I definitely think that we both grapple well as well. I think that'll be the area where we get to mix things up and see who's got an upper hand in that department. Grappling is definitely something I've been working on for everybody. Again, my grappling's definitely come a long way, and I haven't really had to show it because of my striking. And again, that's
Yeah.
who I am. I like to strike. I like to keep things standing, and that's what I plan to do. And I think Jonathan plans to do that same thing. But one thing about him as well is he's again seasoned, so he knows when to mix it up and how to mix it up the right way. And I think that's a trait that I have as well. This is MMA, mixed martial arts, and even though we're both strikers, we have to take advantage of everything that's available.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a question I got to ask you because you're fighting on a card with an absolute legendary matchup going down in the main event, Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic. Just when you hear those words that you're fighting on a card headlined by Jon Jones and Stipe Miocic, like what's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
Just surreal. It's very surreal. It's unexpected and in a good way though. Like if you told my prior self that this is where I'd be in 2024, I might have believed you, I might not have. I was a knucklehead, so
Yeah.
it is pretty nuts. But again, it's the same thing, right? A fist fight's a fist fight. We've been saying it. A fist fight in the dark alley is the same as a fist fight in front of 20,000 people. So. Even though it's a big moment and a big card, I haven't lost track of the fact that this is a 17-minute fight, and it's going to be me and Jonathan locked in there. It doesn't, all the other names won't matter for those 15 minutes. So I'm looking forward to those moments.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I have to ask you about the pound for pound. Do you want to weigh in? Do you think Jon Jones is the pound for pound number one fighter in the world?
Yeah, I mean, you can't really deny it. Looking at the paperwork, if we're looking at what people have done as of late, then obviously not. As of late, he has
Yeah.
not been that guy. But if we're talking about overall credentials, you put his credentials on a piece of paper next to everybody else's piece of paper. Jon Jones is definitely the greatest of all time. You can't deny it. Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson is right up there with him, though. I could argue that he would be the same had he not had the same issues that he had to go through with UFC and one championship and everything else. He was destroying that whole division, had the most title defenses. So will I argue that Jon Jones is the greatest of all time? Absolutely not. I think Dana White's got hit it on the head with that one.
Yeah, no, you don't want to get in the way of that argument with him. Hold on. Sorry, one second. My cat's doing something crazy right now. Hold on. Come here. Get down, get down, get down. Sorry about that. All right.
No, you're good.
This is the beauty of working from home, as this sort of stuff happens all the time. All right, so I want to shift gears here a little bit. Obviously, it's well known that you fight out of the MMA lab out in Phoenix. Just curious, you're obviously Sean O'Malley's teammate. Curious what you thought about the fight against Merab, his performance, and just how that whole event at the Sphere went down.
I think it was a big moment, and Suge usually shines in those moments bright, and it is what it is. We're all human, we all make mistakes, and again, at the highest level, it only takes that one subtle moment, those one subtle mistakes, yeah, and I think that's what it boiled down to. Suge not being able to adjust in those simple moments, and I think that it's something he's going to go to the drawing board with and come back a better fighter, a better man for. So hats off to Merab. But I do think Suge will be back stronger and remind everybody why he was a champ.
Yeah, he's sort of taken some flack because he thinks that he won the fight, that he thinks he won rounds 1, 3, and 5. Um, do you do you think Sean is serious when he's saying that, or do you think he might just be like trolling MMA fans a little bit?
You never know with Suge, man. You never know. He might be
Yeah, yeah,
serious, he might be trolling, and that's the beauty of it because,
yeah,
he just does what he does. He's Sugar and he could do that. So, I mean, whether or not he feels like he won or not, the piece of paper says he lost, and unfortunately he got paid half a check,
right,
and all those things still line up the
yeah,
same way. So, uh, do I think that he got destroyed or, completely just outclassed? No. He was in there for 5 rounds with one of the top guys in the world who is the division champion now. So, how are you going to take anything away from that guy? Like people will be like, oh, he got destroyed. He got melted, this, that, and the third. Yeah, try doing 5 rounds with anybody, let alone the best guy in the world. And it's easier to
yeah.
do that when you have a bag of potatoes in your hand, when you're watching TV on a Saturday night.
Yeah, now there's talk about whether or not Sean might actually get an immediate rematch here because there's reports that Umar, who was rumored to be next in line to fight Merab, that he might actually be fighting Song Yadong instead because of some sort of issue with scheduling, something going on with Merab. Uh, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that Shug deserves an immediate rematch? I know he's coming off of surgery. Like, what's your whole take on that situation?
It's not the craziest thing ever, right? Again, they went five
Yeah,
straight rounds, and he was the champion decisively. He decisively beat Cheeto, he decisively beat Aljamain, and then he went 5 rounds with Marab. So it's not the craziest thing. Could they decide to pass him up and let Umar Nurmagomedov get in there? Absolutely. But I think a lot of it plays into timing too. Marab just got the belt. Yeah, he could turn around and defend the belt right away, but who does that? He doesn't even get 6 months of time to enjoy his fruits of his labor for the last 12 years, 15 years that he's been chasing this belt to enjoy having the belt in his hand before he has to jump in camp. I'm a firm believer that, he has the time, and then again, he, at whatever time, he should become more active. But like, at the beginning, he just got the belt. If he wants to wait a little bit of time, he should be awarded that ability to do so. He shouldn't have to turn right around and have to fight. And unfortunately for Umar, he's going to be going into Ramadan right around that time, right around that 6 month marker. He'll be
Right.
going into Ramadan. I don't think he wants to wait, which is smart on his part. So I think it's a great fight for him to go get that fight against Janssen or Sadong. I think it's great, even though he's been doing great and he's beaten Corey Sandhagen, which is up the top there. Why not turn around and fight a guy like yeah, like Song? It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So, do I think he deserves it? Absolutely. Could the UFC decide to make another fight? Absolutely.
Yep. So how do you think Suge would fare in a rematch with Merab if that fight goes down? A lot of people feel like he didn't look like his normal self that night. He didn't really make excuses. I know he was dealing with like a rib thing and he got a surgery, but he didn't want to make excuses about it. How do you think it would go for him if he got a second chance?
I always think that Sugar has a chance. And again, I do think that Sugar on a second chance, I wouldn't be surprised if he found a way to do damage. Just because
Yeah.
that is him. That is him, and he shines and he opens up in those moments that the brightest lights. And again, I do think that there is a little bit of that as well. A little bit of it being a big show and the bright lights, and usually those don't get ahead of Suge, but I do think it had a little bit because if even as a teammate looking from the outside in, I don't feel like he really ever got going like he usually goes. I feel
Yeah.
like he was a little bit more hesitant, and I don't think in a rematch he would be as hesitant. I think he would be more willing to let it fly, regardless of injury.
Yeah. And I ask this question as respectfully as possible because I know that this is your teammate, but you're coming into a ranked fight now. Now you're entering the stakes are getting higher for you as you fight a guy that's in ranked in the division. You win the fight, all of a sudden you talk about like you're a couple fights away from potentially fighting for the big one. Like fighting for a title eliminator. Being that he's your teammate, you got a couple of guys like you got Kai Matrix on your team, you got Sean O'Malley on your team. Those guys are in your division. Are you hesitant to fight guys that are your teammates that fight out of the MMA lab with you?
So hesitant. I mean, well, hesitant's not the word I would use. Do I want to fight my teammates? Absolutely not. Do I ever hope that I get matched up against my teammates? Absolutely not. But this is the fight game. We all understand exactly where we are in that. And I'm not chasing my teammates. I'm
Yeah.
chasing everybody else in the division. And if it comes to a title challenge for the belt, and that's where we are, and we both happen to work our way up there, and that's the fight. And my teammate obliges, and they're cool with it, and this is something that they want to do. It's not something that I would completely turn down either. We train together regularly, we fist fight regularly, and I have love for them regardless if we were to fight and win or lose, draw, however that would go. And I think my teammates feel the same way about me. But we're not trying to fight each other. And I think that I don't ever think that we should be fighting outside of it being for the belt.
Yeah. No, I've heard that before from other people as well. So I'll fight my teammates only if it's for the belt. I think that's the perfect way to put it. Um, I want to ask you quick about the MMA lab in general. It sort of gets this reputation because I know that it has a good social media presence with Tim and Sean, and they're sort of perceived as sort of like jokesters online. But do you feel like you guys get the proper sort of recognition as one of the top MMA gyms and teams out there in this space?
I would say yes and no. And honestly, as far as Suge goes, like I do go over and train with Suge, but Suge is doing his own thing over at Tim Welch's BJJ or the Hawk. They have
Yeah,
their
I'm
own
sorry.
gym
I'm
as
sorry.
well.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So they
Yeah,
do a lot of their own stuff over there, and obviously he'll always be family forever. And I'll always consider him a part of the lab as long as he considers himself a part of the lab.
yeah,
Um, but as far as like what we do, we kind of do fly on the radar. My coach is getting a little bit more social media presence and starting to put up a little bit more about what we really are about, because we're about family. We're about being there for the next guy, even when it's not our turn. We're about holding out through the times that are tough. We're about building community. Um, so we're about a whole lot of different things that I don't think people realize that our culture has been built off of. And when you come down and you train with us, you get to see that culture and you realize that it's not necessarily all the greatness of the training as well, which is great, but it's the culture that has been set before us to keep adding to this beautiful culture that supersedes being a fighter.
yep. Love that. All right, I got to ask you about this. I'm going to shift things over to you in a second, but I just got to ask you about this huge fight we got this weekend. We got Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway. Just curious what your thoughts are on that fight. Probably one of the biggest fights of the year.
Yeah, definitely. It's a huge fight, and honestly, on both sides, gladiators, right? Ilia Topuria, amazing, crisp boxing, crisp striking, amazing jiu-jitsu, top pressure wrestling, all the nine. He's just amazing, and he mixes things up well. And if he cracks you with one good one, you're out of there. Holloway has beat some of the greatest guys on the whole roster, in multiple different weight classes, and no one's really put him down. He's been hurt what, 3 times, total in his whole career. So, I'm definitely going to be rocking with Max Holloway. I think Max Holloway is going to get the job done. I do think it'll be a decision fight. And we're going to see how those fourth and fifth rounds go.
Yeah.
If it does end early, I could see Ilia catching Max. I mean, that's a big task though, trying to catch Max. You're gonna have to really, really track him down. Max has to stop, and I mean, not too many people have done that. So if Ilia can do that, hats off to him, and he'll just prove that he is as great as what he's been saying for years now.
Yeah, what do you think about how his confidence? There's a lot of debate about his level of confidence, how he just sort of how the things that he says, the way that he acts. Some people feel like it's like fake confidence. What's your read on him?
In my mind, everybody's their own person, and we all need different things, right? And if he needs to,
Yeah.
boast and brag and put a chip on his shoulder and put himself on that pedestal, then so be it. It's not necessarily my style or the things that drive me. It's the boasting and bragging about how great I am doesn't really drive me. It doesn't drive me. Doesn't drive me to get better. It doesn't drive me to move forward. That's not what drives me. But if it's what drives him, then who am I to doubt his confidence? I have extreme confidence in myself too, and I'm sure Max does too. But I think everybody kind of like projects that confidence in different ways.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I've always liked your story. I've always thought you just had a really interesting story, really, just a good guy to follow and like, root for. I've always found you easy to root for. So I like to do a little segment where I just sort of want to get to know a fighter a little bit, little rapid fire. I ask you a few questions, just sort of, answer it however you want. Let's get to know Marcus McGhee a little bit. All right. Like, what kind of music are you listening to right now?
Mostly Christian rap. A lot of Zonti, a lot of Caleb Gordon. This dude named No Big Deal, Miles Minnick. Mostly Christian rap, keeping my mind on focused on things that are above, not the things of this world. And then doing it. I mean, they're just killing it. I mean, the Christian rap game has opened up in a crazy way, and their lyricism and their beats and their word play is just nuts. And then it just is wholesome too. It keeps me rooted and humble in knowing that I am human. So that's where my music taste has been. But I was a big punk rock guy for a long time. I like a lot of different rock as well. Linkin Park, Mudvayne, Seven Dust. Man, freaking My Chemical Romance, Hawthorne Heights. I like a lot of
Yeah.
those guys too. So my musical playlist kind of is crazy.
I love that. I was a big My Chemical Romance fan. Um, Last movie or TV show you're watching right now?
So right now there's an anime I'm watching called Doctor Stone. I don't really watch as much TV. My
Yeah.
wife is more on the TV note, and I just kind of creep by and watch whatever she's watching every once in a while, just like the little husband that pops up, keeping
Yeah, yeah,
eyes.
yeah.
But yeah, Doctor Stone. It's a pretty cool anime that I've been checking out.
Nice. What's your favorite vacation spot?
Man, it's been so long since I went to vacation, but if I had to say, the happiest place in the world, Disneyland,
Hell yeah.
Disneyland, Universal Studios, the beach, any of those things would probably be great.
Do you have anything on your bucket list that you haven't accomplished yet?
I wouldn't necessarily say I have a bucket list. It's not something I've looked at like, oh man, I have to accomplish these things before I pass away from this world. I'm blessed to be able to accomplish everything that I ever accomplished as long as I'm here, breathing. So nothing that I could think of right off the top of my head.
Yeah. Do you have any other skills or any unique skills that people might not know?
Some people know now, I skateboard. I've been skateboarding
Yep.
for a long time. I throw little snippets of it in there, but I used to skateboard a lot better. But I still get down, I still be throwing down, especially outside of camps. Another thing I'm looking forward to doing after this fight is getting out there and getting a couple sessions in. Uh, but yeah, skateboarding and then gardening as well. I was in the cannabis industry for 10 years, so I grew cannabis and still do grow cannabis as well. So that's another one of my trades, and then I like doing outdoor gardening as well.
Nice, love that. If I ever meet you in person, we'll play a game of skate. I used to skateboard as well. I skated every day for like 10 years, so
Let's
I have that
go.
book.
So
Yeah,
you
let's
haven't
do it.
dropped it yet. You still got big hills. You got hill flips, kick flips, straight flips, the basics, right?
I got them all, dude. I mean, I might not be able to. It might take me like 10 or 15 tries, but I could land them. I can land them.
Let's go. Yeah, we
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
got to
yeah.
get a game of skate in there.
Let's do it. Let's do it. That'll be good content. If we're ever in person, we'll play a game of skate for a video.
Yes, sir.
All right. Most famous person in your contacts.
Probably Sean Malley. You know, he's probably the
Okay.
most famous person.
There you go. What would you have been? We might know the answer to this question. This is the last one. What would you have been if you weren't a fighter?
I would be probably like a director of operations or operational manager in the cannabis field. Probably. I mean, I really did enjoy it. It's something I still do enjoy. I just happen to love this more, and this is something that is fleeting. I can grow weed for
Yeah.
the rest of my life. Can't fist fight young guys
Yep.
forever.
That's true. That's a good point. All right. Well, let's end it here. This is my last segment. I do this with every guest. I want to build the perfect fighter. So you got striking, wrestling, cardio, fight IQ, and power, and you got to give me a name that you like to build the perfect fighter. You game?
Yes. Yep.
All right. So if you want to build the perfect fighter, who would you go with for striking?
I'm gonna say Alex Pereira.
Wrestling,
I'm gonna say Habib Nurmagomedov.
cardio,
Oh man, let's take Merab's cardio.
yep. Fight IQ,
Let's see. Oh man, I feel like Demetrius Johnson gotta take his fight IQ, right?
love that. And finally, the last one, power.
Francis Ngannou, who he
There you
just
go.
took out
Nope.
that big man. You can't go wrong there.
Absolutely. Nobody would beat that fighter. Marcus, thank you so much, man. Fighting Jonathan Martinez, November 16th at UFC 309. Let's end it here. You get the win. Where is Marcus McGhee 1 year from today?
I get the win, then I am in the top 10. I working my way up the rankings still, and trying to achieve greatness.
Love it. Hey, well, best of luck, man. I'll be rooting for you, and let's do this again, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.